Hey, everybody. It has been a long time since we've done an EduLaunch party, and I am so excited to be here with one of my good friends and such a sweet lady. And happy birthday, Barbara. Happy birthday. So the birthday girl is tonight here with us, Barbara Gruener. Barbara, could you tell us a little bit about your new book that's coming out, Mr. Quigley's Keys?
I am so excited about it. Okay, it's called Mr. Quigley's Keys, and it is loosely based on the real life of Don Pittman, who was a school maintenance man back, oh gosh, years and years ago. He is no longer with us. He did pass away at the age of 52. But his daughter, Jennifer, told me the story of how he would jingle his way through the school and how excited the school kids would get when they heard him coming, and just about his work ethic and his empathy and his perseverance. And then she said this: he couldn't even hear his own keys because he had lost his hearing in the Korean War. And I said to her, it must have been a decade ago, oh my gosh, you have to write that story. And she said, but I'm not a writer. I know someone who is. And so I couldn't do it for a while. And a decade later, 10, 12 years, I've lost count. But we put pencil to pen and started writing the story.
That is absolutely amazing. I love that. And there's so many fantastic things about this book that I can't wait to talk about. For anybody who's been living under a rock and potentially doesn't know who you are, why don't you go ahead and just give them a little bit of background?
Thank you, Mandy. My name is Barbara Gruener, and I was a school counselor for 25 years, a Spanish teacher for 10 years before that. In 2018, after Hurricane Harvey flooded our town and I did triage for a year, I decided it was done. I was done. It was time to move on and do some consulting. I had written a book and I had been blogging for 10 years, and I really was heartbroken to leave the schools, but so excited for an encore career where I could reach more people and help them with SEL, social and emotional learning integration, and just loving on kids, just making connections, just building relationships.
I love that. I love encore career. I haven't heard that before. That is fantastic. I usually tell people I'm unemployed.
Oh,
that's also true.
And when the pandemic hit, there was a lot of unemployment going on. You know what? It gave us the time to write. It gave me a chance to connect. Audrey Williams, who is the illustrator, she's a young art teacher, and she reached out to me right before the pandemic and said, hey, would you consider being my mentor? And I said, okay, that's super fun, sure. And I left that meeting just knowing that she was going to draw the pictures. Now, all I had to do, because all I had was a title, was write the story. And once I wrote it, she would draw the pictures, and then we would pitch it with you guys because we were just certain you would love it.
That's awesome. And we do. We absolutely love it. And I think even from when the book first started to kind of some of the morphing that it did throughout the process, I think was fantastic as well. Everything from the sign language to the, some of the information that was given in the back, like all of that is just wonderful. I absolutely love it. So we have a little bit about the backstory. What else can you tell us about Mr. Quigley? Because I can tell you that custodians in schools are some of the most important people in there that get the least amount of credit. My own kids have had absolutely wonderful rock star custodians who have worked with them and created relationships, and who are just my kids looked up to and thought they were wonderful. So what else can you tell us about Mr. Quigley?
Well, when we did National School of Character application back in 2008, and we were given that distinction in 2009, we really understood that it totally takes a village, and it's not just the teachers or just the principal or just the school counselor. It's everybody. We trained bus drivers and we trained custodians, and we had this amazing maintenance man named Mr. Fred. And he would just notice, he would just look around and see things that needed repair before we even knew they needed attention. So it was unbelievable when Jennifer's dad's story kept jingling through my head that I would have a Mr. Quigley right in my own building. As I did National School of Character visits, I came across Mr. Sam, and I used a little bit of his story. He was in Missouri. He drew a card for every kid in his school every year, and he would tuck $1 inside, and those kids would go crazy on their birthdays because they knew Mr. Sam was coming to the cafeteria with a card for them, all out of empathy, because for him, he wanted to make sure no kid ever missed a birthday card. So what we did was just combine a bunch of little different stories from all the Mr. Quigleys in the world. And I think we have like a really super story to share.
Yeah, that is amazing. And I think like what you said, it takes a village. You know, we kind of joke sometimes about the you know, that like the assistants in the assistants in the office and things who are helping out and who are taking care of the sick kids, and they're taking care of the kids coming in, and they're taking care of the parents, and we've joked about how we couldn't run the school without the secretaries. Like there would be no way that we could run the school. And because they're so efficient and they do their job well, but also they're meeting and talking with every single child that comes in and leaving an impression on them, and the paraprofessionals that work with the students. Like there are so many amazing people that come in our schools all the time that perhaps don't get as much attention as they could potentially.
And they know their stories. In Mr. Quigley's Keys, he knows that Dante wants to be an astronaut when he grows up. And one of the questions I pose to the kids is, if he's deaf, how does he know that that kid wants to be an astronaut? And it's food for thought. It's no right or wrong answer. Like,
sure.
How do you notice, and how are you mindful, and what other senses surface to the top when you are hearing impaired or deaf?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And there's so many. So like we you know, say Mr. Quigley's Keys, and it's a story about a custodian who's working with students and doing all these amazing things. But honestly, there are so many SEL lessons in this book. It's crazy. Like you could take it in a million different ways, dependent upon the lens that you want to read the book through. And so I would love to bring in one of your guests, since she's here and ready, and she's been like pounding at the door listening to this because she's so excited to talk. And I'm excited to talk to her as well, because I mean, it's like getting, nearly the original person from the story on. So that's absolutely amazing too. And so we're going to bring on Jennifer Quigley here onto the stream. Hi, Jennifer. How are you?
Great. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, so nice to meet you as well.
Hi, Jennifer.
And happy birthday and happy anniversary. It's her anniversary too. So happy birthday.
Oh, that's right.
Thank you. It's a big day.
Yeah, you have all the things going on. All the things.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure. So Jennifer, why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are and what your connection is to the book?
Well, I'm Jennifer Quigley, Jennifer Pittman Quigley, and I teach first grade, and I've taught first grade for 32 years. And I remember the day I was in Barbara's office just talking to her like I normally would, and I had met her father that day, and he'd given me a big hug. Like I said, oh man, do I miss those daddy hugs, and we just started talking about the characteristics of our dads and the ethic and the work ethic, the character, if you shake your hand, that's your bond, that kind of people. And sure. And they were so much alike. I said, oh, I know my dad would have loved your dad. And I started talking about, the keys and how at his school district, he started as custodian and he went through and he became a maintenance man and he was the head of the painting department of the schools. I remember just talking to her like how I would just listen for those keys to just walk down the hall. It kind of brings a tear right now to my eye, but
sure.
I just loved hearing that sound. And, he'd always jingle when he walked. And there he'd pop in my room and my kids and I would all be so excited. And, he'd give me a hug and we'd talk to all the kids. And it's just a really, really, this is real special to my family and to his brother who is still living. And I just can't believe, like I said, a lot of people say they're going to do things, like, oh, that'd be a great story. And then that's as far as it goes. But Barbara completely did it. I mean, she just did it. And it's so exciting, and, having a dad who couldn't hear. He never heard my voice. He never heard my brother or sister's voice. But it didn't stop him from, doing what was right and doing what he loved to do. And he helped people, and he had the can-do spirit, like he's a can-doer, and he never let it slow him down. And, he was just he was a funny guy. He was a fun guy, and I miss him a lot. And I know that he's so proud of, of the story. Like, just be kind to people, and in our time now, kindness really does matter.
Right. Absolutely. I love, yeah. Jennifer, I love that story. So you taught in the school where he
was in the maintenance department. Yes.
Okay.
And just at that school at that time.
Okay.
He at that time he did the painting for all the schools. And so everyone knew him. I mean, he had a garden, he picked tomatoes and corn on the cob and took them to all the teachers. He painted their houses on the weekends. He was just friends with the teachers. He knew him, he knew everyone in the school district, and everyone knew him. And when he did pass away at 52, they did give an award, and they still do give an award out for my dad, for the person in the maintenance department who has the character of my dad. And they still, so after 35 years, they still give out this Don Pittman Award, and it's very, very meaningful. Very meaningful.
That's wonderful
for him.
Well, maybe next year they would be willing to read the book as well when they give the award out. That would be a really nice tribute.
Super cool, wouldn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Very, very cool.
So pictures of him in the book, the likeness of him and the characters in the story it's sweet. It's a book of the heart for me. For sure. That
is amazing. Do you have a favorite part of the book? Is there a part of the book that really sticks out to you?
It's probably the very, very last, where Jen and him are hugging. That's just that's a very sweet part for me. Yeah. I think it's more the personal, of the daddy and the hug right there.
Yeah, absolutely. That is so cool.
Yeah. That's probably my favorite page. For sure.
That's amazing. Barbara, do you have anything for Jennifer while she's on here?
Jennifer, I just want to thank you for letting us tell your story, for letting your cousin in on helping us, and she's a deaf educator, for just being willing to share your daddy with the world like this. I just hope it honors every fiber of his being, because we don't get men like that. We need to grow them up, but they're just not as common maybe as they were in that generation. So I love that you're telling his story. And then I love that you passed the baton and let me write it. Thank you so much.
I thank you for writing it. And I just can't wait to hold it in my hand. Can't wait.
Soon, very soon.
Yes, very soon. Very soon.
Jennifer, thank you so much for sharing that story with us. I don't know why I didn't think about bringing tissues. I've read the book. I should have known better. I cried when I read the book. So now I'm just going to be wiping my nose the entire rest of the party, but that's okay, because it was
sorry.
Beautiful.
Sorry that I brought it out. No, it's just
no. Love it.
So sweet. It's very touching. Very, very touching. I can't wait. And I know that he's honored and he's looking down and smiling. So
that's amazing. Thank you so much, Jennifer. We appreciate you.
Thank you. See you later. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Oh my goodness.
She is absolutely a love.
Yes.
I taught across the hall from her for 14 years, and it was hard to leave that woman behind. Oh, I haven't left her behind, but in the schoolhouse.
Sure. Yeah, now bring her with you.
Yeah.
Here. Yeah, I totally understand. Oh my gosh. Okay. So the next question that I have for you is, how does this book address SEL?
Okay. So social and emotional learning, really, of course, the Castle 5 standards, but it's kind of awareness of self, and then interacting with each other, and then communication and empathy and responsible decision-making. And really it's just about how you show up in the world and how healthy and well you are so that you can communicate and interact. And in this book, Mr. Quigley just models all of that by how he treats the people, by how he quietly lives these keys to character. He paints them on the wall. In the book, I call them keys to connection. He paints them on the wall, and then every page is going to kind of have a sample of that. So you're going to see some peacemaking, and you're going to see some joy, and it's got a very strong empathy message. Like, how do you get quiet enough, which, you know, his world is very quiet, but how do you get quiet enough when you're not deaf in a hearing, you know, world, to sit with someone, to hold space, to feel, not to fix it for him. That's probably my favorite line. He is a fix-it man, but he knows this about empathy. Not to fix it for him, us, them, just to feel it with us, him, them. It's just about being there and silently holding one another's hearts. And so I really loved being able to weave empathy, which is just one of our 5 core competencies in SEL, all throughout the book.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, I think I've said like 4 times now, but I really can't say it enough. There are so many lessons out of this book. So many things that you could do with students as far as like learning sign language, or, you know, talking about that idea of holding space. There's a lot of adults that don't understand the concept of holding space, and how it's really not about, you know, trying to give advice or trying to fix things, or, you know, anything like that. And so I think that, you know, it's such a powerful book. I love it on so many different levels.
I think I'm learning about empathy too, that it's not so much about projection. The whole, I get it. Let me tell you, when my dad, that's lovely, and I get it, period, actually works okay. But when you make it about yourself instead of honoring their story, then you've lost a bit of the power of that connection, of just being in the moment and saying to them, I see you, you matter, tell me more. What's the most challenging part? How might I help?
Yeah, absolutely. It reminds me a little bit of that video, that sympathy versus empathy video by Brene Brown, where with the goat, where she's supposed to be the sympathetic one, and, you know, well, you know, oh my, you know, my daughter's dropping out of school, and, or, oh, my marriage is bad, and, oh, well, at least you have a marriage, you know, like stuff, different things like that. And yeah, I love that video. I use it quite a bit. So
yes.
So this is my absolute favorite part of every single EduLaunch is the author read. So I'm going to highlight you, and you're going to be able to hold up the book and show it. And so read as much of it as you want. But I'm gonna hand it over to you.
Okay, and I think I'll stand so you can get a good, when you first open the book, you'll see the title page, and then you'll see one of Audrey Williams' beautiful murals. And it's just meant to be a picture walk right now. You'll see it a little later with some words, but these are the 12 keys to connection. One of them, the key behind his knee, all the way over here, does not have a word on it. So one of our kind of fun teaser questions is, as you read the book, you see there's self-control, creativity, joy, peace, love, empathy, perseverance, work ethic, gratitude. You see those words. I wonder which one is missing. And that's fun for the kids to be able to watch for. We've also dedicated it to Jennifer and all the kind, compassionate Mr. Quigleys in the world. And you'll see as well that there are 12 camouflage keys throughout the illustrations. So the kids have a good time searching for those. He's almost here. I called out as cheerfully as I could as soon as I heard the clanging cadence of Mr. Quigley's keys. The sound of those keys was music to our ears because it told us that our fix-it friend was on his way. It totally felt like kindness coming closer as each one of those shiny metal treasures bounced and jounced on his belt. Everybody loved Mr. Quigley. He was our maintenance man. His kind, playful smile and warm, caring eyes could light up a room brighter than any light bulb in his supply closet. He was also a painter, a carpenter, and a can-doer. There wasn't anything that Mr. Quigley couldn't do. He adjusted leaky faucets and tightened up wobbly shelves. He oiled up squeaky doors and freshened up weathered walls. He would take care of things before anybody else even knew they needed fixing. He even knew how to help put friends back together when hard things tried to break us apart. As I watched Mr. Quigley paint the keys to connection on the wall, I realized that each one of these 12 traits fit him perfectly. His every move seemed to speak the language of goodness, gentleness, and love. He never needed to say much because how he treated us did the talking for him. And I wanted to be just like him when I grew up. I especially loved how he quietly jingled his way through the halls, listening to our hearts and looking for ways to serve. This is one of my favorite parts because it's going to change orientation. This is where I'm going to leave you. Miss Pittman told us that he chose a life of service when he became a sailor in the Navy, long before he started working at our school. That made him a veteran. And there's a very young Mr. Quigley in a sailor salute.
That is amazing. I love it so much. So much about it. And like that part is fantastic. But then it gets like better. So you have to get the book because you have to read the end of it. That's such a fantastic. And that one too, that's my favorite, where it changes orientation. Such a beautiful picture. Oh my gosh.
Audrey did a great job with our illustrations. They're just simple, but they're powerful. Simply powerful.
Yes, absolutely. We have a couple more friends knocking at your door, and they want to come and tell you happy birthday and happy anniversary and happy launch day and all of the things.
Please let them in.
So I'm going to let them in. So here we go. So here is Michelle and Tony. Hi, Michelle and Tony.
Happy everything, Barbara.
Thank you, Tony, Barbara. Dr. Barbara in the house.
I'm so proud of you.
Oh, thank you.
You did it.
It's here. It's really here.
Beautiful.
These two beautiful souls served on our focus group.
That is amazing. Thank you so much for doing that. First of all, we appreciate you taking the time to serve on the focus group always, and be a part of the launch team even. So thank you so much for that. Why don't you ladies tell everybody a little bit about who you are and how you know the book?
Well, I want to start because who I am is Barbara Gruener's friend. There's nothing greater in the whole world than that. I've known her for so long. And when you're looking at somebody who writes a book about empathy, there's nobody better than Barbara Gruener. Barbara, this book is so touching, so wonderful, and has so many layers of wonderfulness on helping kids learn empathy and what it's like to serve. And all those 12 keys are so perfect. So thank you.
Thank you, Michelle.
I also get to hold the wonderful title of being a friend of Barbara. We're actually virtual friends. We've never met in person, but we've done some incredible projects together. And I tried to desensitize myself to the book before this happened, but when Jennifer came on, my heart, I'm sitting here in tears, but I am an educator. I have taught for 10 years. I'm also a content and resource creator for teachers. And as I said, I'm just so proud to know Barbara, and no one could have written this type of text more perfectly than her.
Yeah, absolutely. She was the perfect person for, but you know, I honestly, and I really can't say enough. I mean, I absolutely love Barbara, and I knew that when she came out with something, it was going to be quality and it was going to be amazing. But the book is even better than I expected to, you know, and I think, and I expected greatness from Barbara to begin with, and then it was so awesome. So, you know, what do you ladies have anything to say? Like, was there a favorite part of the book that you really, really liked that stood out to you, or anything like that?
I'll go ahead and speak if you. Oh, I'm sorry. Go right ahead.
No, go.
Okay, I was just gonna say, as a second grade teacher, ELA teacher, I read a lot of books aloud to my students. And, you know, our time with our students is so precious. So it's really wonderful to have a multi-layered book that can go in so many directions to teach all of the literacy that I want, but most certainly getting those SEL components in there. I also want to say to Barbara that I'm really thankful for this type of text, because as an individual with a disability and an educator with a disability, I'm legally blind since birth. I have a degenerative disease, so it gets worse as I, get older. It's just wonderful to see such respect and rapport for people with disabilities. Not that I want anyone to pity me or feel sympathy for me, but it's nice to know that those with disabilities are getting that empathy and understanding, and that is being served to our children. So I love that part of the book. My favorite part is when Jen is telling Dante about signing, and he doesn't understand it, but he comes to understand it fully. And that was just so beautiful. So that's what I will say.
Thank you, Tony.
Absolutely.
Oh, Tony, that was just absolutely so beautifully said.
Let's just all cry. Let's have a cry fest.
Kleenex for these things, because it's just perfect. And there's, literature is such a way for our kids to step into the shoes of someone else. And very often, a parent or a teacher may not have quite the right words, but the character just infuses a child to be able to understand it and then have those incredible discussions. And I don't think anything is more critical right now, Barbara, than empathy. Empathy is the seeds of humanity. And when we start teaching our children and using books like this, and Mr. Quigley, oh my gosh, this incredible man who children begin to love and understand why they love him, for his gentleness, for his character. Too often in a looky-look kind of a world where it's all about what you get and what you have, we forget character and how critical it matters. And he just emulates every single part of empathy. But maybe it's an opportunity for a child to go, that's why I love him. And that's the person that I can become as well. Oh my gosh, that's just a service to children all over the world. Thank you, Barbara.
Oh, thank you. I love the part where you said it's key to parenting. Empathy is key to parenting. And that's one of my favorite quotes about you, because I totally believe that. I totally believe that is true.
Yeah, absolutely. It is a phenomenal book. I love it. I love, everything that you ladies said. And I think we can't get enough empathy, right? And we absolutely sometimes have to draw that distinction between the sympathy and the empathy, like Barbara and I were talking about before. Empathy is really about holding space for people and that understanding that you don't need to tell your story in order for their story to be important. And I also love how there's Mr. Quigley is like showing kindness, and that comes back to him in the form of empathy as well. So the empathy kind of going both ways too, and understanding how Mr. Quigley thinks and feels, and from the standpoint of somebody who has a disability, that's so important to teach our kids that their assumptions might be wrong, and that their judgments about somebody might be wrong, and how we can take like learn just a little bit in order to just make our fellow humans feel better, no matter what their situation is. And so I love that about the book. Is there anything else that you wanted to share?
I have to make sure I'm reading this right, but I love how you defined empathy, Barbara. I love it because it's the listening to our hearts and looking for ways to serve. That particular line is one of my favorite ones. I think we overlook that there's some different kinds of empathy. One is the affective kind, when you feel with another person, but also the cognitive side, which you also bring into the point of trying to step in and understand where the other person's coming from. But the key that I think sometimes we miss is the B side. A is the affective, C is the cognitive, and B is the behavior. So what are you going to do about it? It's compassion in action, and that's what he's all about. And that's the epitome of what it's all about. And when we get that level, it's like, there's the kid who's really going to take it and be the little change maker, because every child needs to know they can make a difference. And to me, it all starts with empathy, and you just nailed it, Barbara Gruener.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, ladies, thank you so much again for not only being a part of the focus group, but also, again, being a part of the launch team and being on here and sharing your connections with the book. We appreciate you.
Thank
Bye,
you.
guys. Thank you.
Thank
Happy birthday, girl. Thank you.
So Barbara, that is a half an hour already. Isn't that crazy how quickly that goes?
So crazy.
Absolutely
I'm so
crazy.
glad you came up about disabilities. I want to show one more page because I think the inclusion, the opportunity really to look at how do we, show diversity and differences and celebrate that and bring in a little bit of equity and say, you don't have to even have your hearing to do good in the world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, so many great things about this book, and it's actually time to go ahead and choose your winners.
Okay.
So, like with every EduLaunch we choose 2 winners out of the comments. If you've been commenting away, you have a better chance for actually winning a book. So I'm going to scroll through them, and the one at the top is going to be the winner. So Barbara, all you got to do is tell me when to stop.
Okay, and stop.
Okay, so Amy Perez.
Awesome. I think
the
Amy's
winner.
a school counselor down the road.
All right. That is amazing. So Amy, we're going to give you some information on how you can contact Barbara to claim your book in a second. So hang tight. All right, Barbara, say stop again.
Stop.
Okay, we're going to skip Sarah Thomas because she's our boss lady, and so she doesn't. But under her is Mrs. Letter, who is one of my favorite people in the world. And so she is going, yes, we love her. So so we know how to get a hold of her in order to get her book. So can you tell everybody, Barbara, how to get a hold of you and where people can find your book?
Okay, the book is on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and at EduMatch. Right now, bit.ly/Mr. Quigley's Keys will take you straight to Amazon. And you can order. The Kindle version is out. The soft cover version and the hardcover version are not short behind. Then if you want to catch me on Twitter at Barbara Gruener or BarbaraGruenerAuthor.com, I'm going to talk a little bit backstory over there and just give people a chance to interact. If they want to have a Zoom read aloud or an author visit, I would love for your school campus to hear Mr. Quigley's Keys.
Yes. That is absolutely amazing. And as usual, if you, here at EduMatch Publishing, we give a discount on bulk order of books, which is only starts at 10 books. And so you can get an amazing discount on Mr. Quigley's Keys by ordering maybe a set of 10 for a class or something to that effect. And if that is something that you would like to do, you can email Sarah Thomas at edumatchbooks@edumatchers.org. And we really appreciate you joining us tonight for all the things Barbara had going on, her birthday and her anniversary and her book launch and all of the things. And so thank you so much for being here. And Barbara, thank you for joining us. And congratulations.
I'm so grateful to you and Sarah. Thank you, Mandy. Take care.
Bye-bye. Good night, everyone.